here. How are you?
Oh, not too bad.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. This is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of crazy, I will admit.
Okay. First, I would like to take care of a very little bit of business before we start,
You
if you
bet.
don't mind.
You bet.
During my streams during Nano, I also offered to collect bits that I promised would be turned over to you
Okay.
during this stream. Over the course of the month, I got donations of 118 bits. So,
Wonderful.
so I'm going to round that up to 125.
Okay.
And I promised that I would match that, so that's going to bring us to a 250. And because I am a huge proponent of any program or service that helps promote childhood literacy, I'm going to double that again. So here comes. I guess I have to do it 5 times, huh?
I don't know.
1, 2, 5. No, not 6. Here we go.
All right. 500 bits. Thank you so much, Dinosaur Bob, and thank you everyone who is watching Dinosaur Bob streams for contributing to the Kids Need to Read Charity Foundation. Thank you so much. So, yeah, this is awesome. So, uh-oh, did I lose you? There you are, back.
Yeah, the microphone kicked out for a second. I'm not sure why.
Oh, okay.
But
no worries.
Let's see if it lasts this time.
Sounds good. So, Dinosaur Bob, or RPGDinosaurBob, tell us a little bit, and everyone who here, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. First of all, the dinosaur reflects the number of years that I've been playing around in this general space. I am primarily an RPG campaign setting and adventure designer. I have been doing that, let's see, since I was 18, so that would be 43 years. 43 years.
Okay.
40, going on 44. I was introduced to the first edition of Dungeons and Dragons by the kid brother of my then girlfriend and now wife of 37 years. I've been playing ever since. I've been dungeon mastering since the beginning.
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, I got recruited by kid brother because none of his friends, who were 14 maybe at the time, wanted to deal with the dungeon master part. They just wanted to kill monsters. so they talked me into running a game. Since then, I have early on I ran. The first dungeon I ran was a classic rookie dungeon. I mean, in 5 levels, lots of rooms, absolutely no coherence as to what was in adjacent rooms and why. And okay, you defeated the orcs, now fight the goblins. Now you oh, and there's a dragon down the hall. Or it was one of those. But that evolved quickly. I was fascinated by the concept of actually creating a whole environment to play in. I have created several campaign worlds in my history. All of them to date have been for some incarnation of the Dungeons and Dragons line, particularly second edition. I had my most successful campaign was in a world. The campaign ran for 7.5 years. So got my characters from level 1 all the way up to somewhere in the 18 to 20 range, and this is second
Oh
edition
my.
rules, so that's a lot more. That's significant. Yeah, the campaign wrapped up when one of them became emperor of half the world, and the other ones, it was it got to that point where it was, they actually did conquer the world, so it was time to shut that one down. I started working on a new campaign setting for the originally for that first. The first thought was it was going to be for that same group, but I also decided, and this is back in maybe November, about a year ago. I also decided that, having done this a few times, and having spent huge amounts of time in gaming, it would be nice to actually see if I could, kind of broaden my horizons, and maybe even make a few bucks back to make up for the hundreds, if not thousands, that I've spent on the hobby since I started in it. So the new campaign world that I started, the intention was to eventually package it and make it available. At least in PDF form to anybody who was willing to throw a few bucks at me to get it.
Yeah.
And it like my others, it started out as a collection of huge numbers of Microsoft Word files and Excel spreadsheets and things like that. And this time I quickly realized that there needed to be a better way to do that. So around March or so, I started looking for some sort of online system that would be helpful. Um, I'm not going to name names, but I tried one or two before I, in June, found. Actually, in June, I was watching a video by this guy called the Great GM that somebody recommended to me, and that video happened to be sponsored by some group called World Anvil. So I
I might have
decided
heard of
to,
them.
yeah. So I took a look at the World Anvil video. Um, Looked interesting. Downloaded the free get started, and an hour later I was paying for Grandmaster,
Yeah.
and I haven't looked back since. That was in mid-June, so I'm only World Anvil community for 6 months now. So and I landed there in mid-June, and everybody is talking about this weird thing called summer camp.
Oh, the summer camp that changed all summers.
Yeah, so I got into summer camp, and then in the last couple of days before summer camp, everybody started talking about this streaming thing. Now, I had actually done a few YouTube videos back the very beginning of this year,
Uh-huh.
and they're out there on my YouTube channel, that actually talked about my thought process of the first steps of creating the world that I'm creating in World Anvil. There's some nice crude videos. They're really really terrible production values, but they're there for posterity. Um, that actually describe the physical nature of the world and some of the thought processes that I was going to use to start developing it. And then COVID hit, and just
Yeah.
all kinds of weird stuff happened, of course, in the spring. So I kind of laid off the videos, but when summer camp came around and everybody started talking about streaming, I said to myself, yeah, you know what? I've already got the software.
Mhm.
The same, I was using OBS Studio to do my YouTube videos,
Ah.
and I knew it did streaming too. So I said, oh, what the hell? Let me try it. So my first stream was on June the 1st, on day one of summer camp, and haven't looked back since. So
And I believe you reached affiliate during that month, correct?
I reached affiliate in 10 days.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was that was especially the early part of summer camp where the streamer core was just getting started,
Yeah.
and everybody was doing everything they could to get every member possible up to affiliate.
Yeah.
That was about the same time I think you made affiliate.
Well,
Um,
I started
yeah.
streaming I think maybe 3 or 4 days before you did, but only because I wanted to do a technical preview to see if I knew how to
Mhm.
do it, so I was ready for the first day of summer camp. So yeah, we're pretty similar.
Yeah. As are a whole bunch of us. So, I mean, I think the whole half the streamer core, you can probably count on one hand the number of streamer core people that were regularly streaming before summer camp. I know Hefe
Yeah.
was, I know Davina was. There are a few others that were, of course, but there were a huge number of us that started up in summer camp, and we're all going strong. And I love the community.
Hmm.
I love the tool. I love the community. Janet and Demi are great. The response to requests is fantastic. The fact that it works so well for both my needs, the as a campaign designer and role playing game focused, and your needs as a writer, for example. I think the synergy between them is beautifully laid out
Yeah.
in the product.
Yes, I had very much the same experience, except I was trying to find out a way to have the features of a Marvel Cinematic Universe, but for fairy tales of
Mm.
my creation. And that was where I got in. I was using Trello boards, I was using uh, Airtable, online databases and stuff like that. And when I finally found World Anvil, it really just amazing. It was about when I discovered the idea of custom templates, I immediately became a GM, and luckily last month or so I became a Eternal GM because of the wonderful platform it is, and I just think it's great. I just think it's
Ah,
great.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
anyone who's wondering, I did put a link into the chat room for the Anvilite Streamer Core. Exclamation point ASC is the code that will cause that link to come up. So if you have other people that you would like to support or find, because I don't do this 24-hour thing very often. Let me rephrase. I will never do this 24-hour thing again. but I just want to let you know that the Anvilite Streamer Core during NaNoWriMo had almost 24-hour coverage, either a live person or a reporting lobby. It was amazing, to steal Janet's word.
And I expect World Ember will be the same. Um, it did.
Mm.
Everybody was talking the last week or so of summer camp. Everybody was talking about how, the streaming is all going to die back off. There's going to be down to a couple, and it's going to go back to where it was. It never did.
Yeah.
It didn't go down after summer camp. It only amplified. We picked up a bunch of new streamer core members during Nano. I don't see them going away. World Ember again is going to just reinforce it. I think we're here to stay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a couple of people went up and down, of course. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be one or two coming in and out. E Songbird, we're looking forward to you becoming a regular contributor again when your life allows for it.
Yeah.
Uh,
ASC is definitely here to stay, and it has been. I would I would say there have been few things on the internet, except for the internet itself, that has been as life changing for me as the Anvilite Streamer Core and the World Anvil platform.
yeah,
So
especially during these COVID times.
yes,
Um, you know,
yeah. It has been so wonderful to be able to build this community, to reach out, have friends, associates, and know that there are people out there who that we can all work together and fight the malaise, if you
yeah,
will.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's get into a prompt. You've seen some of the prompts that we have been doing, and I do have uh,
Hmm.
my prompt up there. What would you like to add? Because we have a whole lot of different things that we could add. What would you like to
What are
add to
my
this
what are
world?
my choices? Yeah.
Well, if we go into the on the main page under microscope steps. There is the prompt picker, and let's open that as in a new tab. And so we can add places, groups, people, stuff, events, or nature.
And the microphone kicked out again, but I'm back.
Okay. So we pretty much almost any template in World Anvil, it has been placed in here. So we can do whatever you would like. We had a great with Kiddopoi. We had the ethnicity. We've had the religions already. The geography, the former continent of
Mhm.
uh, Euros. These words are so new that I don't know what they are. Oh, and a big shout out to Twinkle Toes the Berserker for your donation of 300 bits. Thank you so much for that contribution that came in right on the heels of Dinosaur Bob's contribution as well. So thank you for that.
All right. What do we have under groups? What are our choices under groups?
Groups are organizations, and that could include a country. We have professions, and we had a profession with Author Goddess. We have military unit, and we have religion.
No, let's stay away from those. Let's go down the list a little further. Let's see if we can hit something that you haven't hit yet. What's under stuff?
Okay, this this is the document, an item, a material, or a vehicle. I didn't know
Okay.
what to put that in.
I, actually, wasn't one of the poll choices something about hover cars?
Yes, it actually was. The microscope is that we would have um, hover cars. So, do you want to work on the hover cars together?
Why don't we work on the hover cars?
All right, let's do that.
Now here's a quick first question.
Hmm.
Do they hover because of magic or do they hover because of technology?
Well,
Or
that is
both?
well. See, and that is a great question that we can do. We can try to figure out because it depends. It kind of depends on which era we put them in. Because if we put them in um, the dystopian era, then it could be either. But if we put it in the earlier, like the colonialism one, it would have to be magic
Mm,
because the technology isn't there enough.
isn't there yet? Yeah.
Heck, even our era today, we still don't have hover cars as much as Doc Brown promised us that we would.
No, but you know what? Actually, having them during the earlier era because of magic would actually give impetus to them getting created or dealt with as soon that it could help drive the technology once the technology era takes force. Just look, for example, at the number of things that we've actually invented in the last 40 years because we saw it on Star Trek.
Yeah, those.
You know,
I mean, hello, a tricorder right here.
yeah,
I mean, we're all carrying tricorders
yep.
in our pocket.
Especially nowadays with the body sensors and everything else that are attached to your cell phone.
Oh, isn't that
An
crazy?
Apple Watch that can take your blood pressure, give you an EKG. Yeah, it's
All right. Then would it be all right if we put this under the global exploration era? Because that could really be something that could kick us off
sure.
in
Yeah.
global exploration. All right.
Yeah, because for actually that works well because by almost by definition maybe they aren't. I mean, maybe they aren't amphibious. Maybe they need land beneath them. Maybe they don't work over water. Maybe they do. Yeah, is it a hovercraft or is it a you
Well,
know?
see, that could be an interesting thing because we do have the propeller air hovercrafts that can
Mm,
skim over the water. And that could be like the mechanical answer that the magic hovercrafts work on the land, but the the propeller ones work on the water. Does that make microphone? Bound fire and air elements to propel and lift the cars. Interesting. Eberron, they harness elementals to power flying ships.
How about that? How about
Yeah,
now?
you're back.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what it is with Google Meet, but it's just dropping my microphone constantly, and there's nothing else using my mic.
Interesting. I don't know. Okay.
So I don't know. What I started to say was, I mean, in our current real world, the hovercraft we have are actually good on any flat surface, whether that is flat land or water. It's rough terrain that they have trouble with because things get up into the propellers. So I mean, we could go an approach like that. From the magical side, though, we could decide that the magical energy has to be drawn from Earth, so they are only good over land. Um, they don't work. They don't work when there's water in the way, or when there's a huge body of water in the way. At least, I guess if they failed every time they went over a puddle, they wouldn't be very practical. Um, or they work by some generic anti-gravity, in which case they would work over land, sea, or whatever. So maybe that's a poll choice. Why don't we ask others what
Okay.
do we want our hovercraft to be amphibious, or do we want them to be land only or sea only? That might be the way
Okay.
you travel across the oceans. So
Okay. So for the magical hovercraft, is it amphibious? I can't spell, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's put that on a 3-minute duration, where we'll have the magical hovercraft. It can be amphibious, water only, or earth only. And we'll start the poll. There we go. I'll view those results as they come in. And
looks like Earth only jumps out to an early lead.
yeah, okay.
There's an amphibious.
DM Stretch has shared with us in the Discord an idea. Ravnica, the Sky Sprinter vehicle. Well, there we go. Come back. A robo and a cart. Oh, it's a taxi. Oh, cool. Okay, Magic Beyond Yorkin says, can I suggest amphibious, but only in short journeys? I kind of like that one too. Because there is the idea of that sailing ships is still a thing. I mean, because it would take a lot of magical energy. Well, we haven't decided how magic is energized. What is the cost of doing the magic? Is it an eternal, unending power supply, or are there costs to the magic? So, if we do have a hovercraft or hover car, how are they fueled, even with
Mm.
magic?
Well, the other thing to think that we need to think about too is, I mean, it's one thing to lift it off the ground with magic,
Right.
but how is it propelled? I mean, these things could still be horse drawn. Um, just
Oh,
instead of relying on wheels, which would therefore require good roads. You have a floating, basically a floating wagon behind a horse. Um, you could put a sail on it, but since there's no keel, um, you couldn't really rely on it for long sailing distances. So you might very well be able to use that short distance on water thing. Um, but again, you'd need short distance on water as long as you have a way to either tow it or you're going to go with the wind. But you'd be a slave to the wind like you would in a hot air balloon. So that might be interesting, though. That might be an interesting way to go.
the poll came back as a tie between amphibious and earth only. Of course, we have a tie.
So
They
why don't we go with that idea where quasi amphibious, short journey across water, but again, if we take propulsion out of it, you wouldn't use them to be cargo ships or sailing ships because you really couldn't control where they went. But you
okay.
could use them. You could use them to slip across a river or something like that. They wouldn't sink if you tried to cross a river with it. Um, and that kind of satisfies both the amphibious and earth only approach.
Okay, so the magical hovercraft draws magical power to elevate, but doesn't have propulsion.
Right.
Requires horse, wind, etc. to move, ideally for short distances. Okay, I do like that.
Yeah, and again, the limitation on wind is, again, you don't have a keel, so you don't get to, hold a sail against the wind or into the wind. All right, there's no tacking with these things. You put up a sail, and the wind blows you in one direction.
Right.
So again, not very practical for transoceanic journey.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just need to get across a river and the wind is blowing the right way, it's fine.
Or
Then again, if or your horse swims and pulls the cart behind it,
well, yeah, and you also could have a ferry where there is ropes tied to both sides,
Correct.
and you could just pull it with
Correct.
uh, tack and block and tack, or with
Right.
pulleys. That's
Yeah,
what they
and,
are.
and and you're not fighting resistance. Again, the advantage of this. I mean, the reason you'd have it or want it. Again, you don't have to deal with good roads. As long as the roads are good enough for the animal that's pulling you, that they're good enough for you. Crossing a river, you don't have the friction. You're not dealing with fighting a current or anything like that. So there would be advantages to it.
Okay.
And reasons for it to stick around. So. Now they could be big, small. They could come in different sizes, I guess. The ferry-sized one sounds interesting.
Well, and then eventually you could use that ferry to be a bridge. You could use them depending on the amount of power that you would need to keep it running. It could actually be the starting of a bridge, or at
Yeah,
least
if
a
you build
temporary
just
one.
build it long enough and anchor the two sides. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
that makes for some interesting catastrophes or sabotage later. What if the magic fails in the middle of the bridge?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So roads would be needed less as they only need to be traversed by an animal. Then so roads only.
yeah. You don't have to deal with the smoothness that wheels kind of require. Yeah.
Yeah, roads would only until a wheel is needed. But see, then the mechanical hovercraft, I mean, that would have to wait until the combustion engine.
Probably, yeah. At least the combustion engine, and then eventually some sort of anti-grav technology. One other interesting thing, going back to the earlier one, just as you use horses or a team of horses to pull the hovercraft over land,
Uh-huh.
you could adapt it to ocean sailing, but it would require securing a team of waterborne animals to act as your pulling team.
Oh.
So you could have dolphins in harness, you could have seals in harness, you could tie onto a whale or something. And in order to keep something like a whale from sounding and pulling you down into the bottom of the ocean, you'd probably need to again rely on magic to communicate with the animal. Because let's face it, the sea animals, they function in 3D. You have to make sure they're not functioning in 3D when they're pulling your boat.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So, and since I believe there is some darkness supposed to be to this world, I mean that also opens up the possibility, of course, of exploiting these animals,
Right.
and keeping them semi-tortured. Those Doctor Who fans out there will remember the episode that involved a generation ship, that,
That,
that basically was in Great Britain
yeah, the Great Britain on the
on the
back of,
beacher,
yeah,
that was being constantly tortured to get it to move when all they needed to do was talk to it.
yeah.
So the space whale, yeah. So you have those opportunities. You might have some cultures that capture and exploit, whereas others, take a friendlier approach with the animals. So you have choices there. So like I said, so we could have it, being ocean crossing, but it's inherently more dangerous. Again, a horse can't decide to either fly up into the air or dive down into the ground, while it's pulling your cart behind it. But a whale that decides that it really wants to be 300 feet deep now
Yeah.
is not going to mean a good day for the people that are on the platform attached to it. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have the magical hovercraft, we have the mechanical hovercraft for transportation and in small areas. And yeah, you'd have DM Stretch is saying you would have quick detachable cables just in case. But
yeah,
then you'll be stranded.
but now you're floating at sea. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
Well, like I said, it's another use for a mage, though. I mean, now you need a mage or a druid or somebody that can speak to the animals and get them to
okay.
cooperate. So I mean, that would be the safest way to get about it. Yeah. So yeah, once we get into the technology side, initially it would be internal combustion. Now, just as with cars, of course, the same technology that lifts the hovercraft is also going to be able to push it,
Right.
so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Eventually, in the dystopian area, again, anti-gravity might be there, and if anti-gravity is there, that handles the lift, and the propulsion could be anything you want.
Okay. All right. There we go. So that is it. And let's make sure that we come in here and I'm going to copy my little contribution template here. And how at the bottom of this, I'd like to make sure that you have a link that you would like to have back to your place of choice. Where would you like people to be able to find
Prob-
you?
Probably my World Anvil profile, which is just Dinosaur Bob. Whatever the prefix is for World Anvil, and then Dinosaur Bob. Somebody else apparently grabbed Dinosaur Bob on Twitch before I could. They don't use it. They don't do anything with it. I haven't ever seen anything by them, but I couldn't use the name. Hence the RPG in front of it on Twitch.
Yeah, that is always the struggle.
I should probably change my name on World Anvil to add the RPG on it there, but I think I'm RPG Dinosaur Bob on Discord as well, on the World Anvil Discord. Exactly, Songbird. I should just commit to the RPG. Yeah. What else do we have here? Anything else good in this chat?
Yep, a lot of good things going on there.
Yep.
Okay, so let me save that. I will change that to published. All right, well, thank you so much, Dinosaur Bob, for coming on to the 24-hour chat stream. And please be sure to thank everyone over there who contributed bits to your channel so that we could have this, have additional work and additional monies to be able to provide to the Kids Need to Read Charity Foundation. What are the normal times that you stream during the week?
Okay, during World Ember, I'm going to use the same schedule that I used during Nano, which is 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time, right after your slot for the most part, on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
I think that translates to something like 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m. British, Greenwich Mean. Like I said, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. I think it's 9 p.m. Japan Standard Time. When I post my streams, those are the ones I post. Japan Standard is close enough to the Australia and the Asian group that they can figure it out from there.
Okay. All right. And so that's Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays for 3 hours. Originally, I had been streaming 2 hours. I expanded it to 3 for Nano. It seems to be working now. During World Ember, I'm going to probably run similar to what I did for Nano, especially early on. It's going to be lots and lots of sprints. Mm-hmm. The sprint timer will be running all the time. I will resurrect the showcase, the article showcase feature.
Oh, yes.
Pardon me, which I had turned off during Nano. But I will bring that back. But I'm probably going to put a limit of 2 or maybe 3 per stream so that I don't end up losing a whole stream to that.
Right.
And it might increase toward the end of the month because I have a feeling that, I haven't done a World Ember yet. But it seems to me that there's going to be a lot of frantic writing up front and then a lot of cleanup and showing off toward the end as people start to, get articles ready for the various challenges. So if I'm reading that right, I'll start with very few showcases, but as the month goes on, more and more people are going to want to have their stuff critiqued. So I'll probably make adjustments to that as we go along. Okay. And then come January, I'm tentatively going to go back to 2-hour streaming, starting an hour later. But I may change my mind on that too. I'll have to see how I feel after 2 months of 3-hour streams. So,
well, I definitely cut my streaming time in half. I was crazy enough to try to do 2-a-days.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be able to only do it 1 a day. So with that. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for being
All right.
here, Dinosaur Bob. It's been awesome having you
Thank
here.
you for having me, and thank you to everybody else that's out there in the chat for putting up with me.
All right. Have a good one, and
Yep.
I will catch you on the Twitch.
Yep. Take it easy. All right.
Bye.